Now more than ever, like one of the things that to me is something that I've been thinking about a lot. In fact, actually, I was having this conversation with my mom just yesterday. My mom is a Bible teacher, and we were talking about the church and the fact that one of the things that has been most affected by this pandemic has been the corporate congregation of believers. Which, quite honestly, now as I have been reflecting upon it, I think it's not such a bad thing. And let me just put it this way: in that there's nothing wrong with corporate worship, but I think the church had become irrelevant because of that. I think that we had become so comfortable congregating together, like it's little club, tarry in Jerusalem, and so we were very comfortable. You bring your people, bring people, come and experience transformation when they come to church, right? Less about going out, more about bring them in. And what this pandemic thing has done is that I think it's come to challenge the structures that we had built and the formats that we had built, right? Which I find this very interesting that post COVID, every church has scrambled to go and do a live stream. But it's so amusing to me how every live stream is on Sunday at 10 a.m. You get what I'm saying? And in fact, there's I like how Pastor Goy put it, Reverend Goy. He says it's like ambassador. When you go to ambassador and there's 10 preachers all preaching just there, it's just noise, just a bunch of. That's what it's about. And I think that right now, similar to what happened to the early church. If you look at the early church in Book of Acts, the early church was centered in Jerusalem, right? And what happens is that the persecution begins, the persecution of Saul. Remember, Saul, before he became Paul, begins a persecution in the church. And what happens with this persecution in the church is that it causes the believers to scatter. And so what we have is that the mandate that Christ gave to the church was go into all the world. But these guys are not going into all the world because it's like Jesus has left. We're so happy here in Jerusalem. And so what God does is that he brings persecution and it causes the church to spread. And so, in fact, yesterday when I was having a conversation with my mom, and she's a Bible teacher, she's saying like if you look at, for example, how the church in Antioch was established, it's like no one knows who established the church, but it says that it was established by people who were fleeing Saul's persecution, right? So meaning that literally the persecution forced the church in Antioch to be the one, which was one of the most incredible churches outside of Jerusalem. It's a church that Paul later on goes to preach at, and you see the manifestation of all the gifts of the Spirit in that church. And it's because of the persecution in Jerusalem, there's a church in Samaria, and you begin to see disciples like, especially after Stephen is killed, it causes everyone. There's a panic and causes everyone to flee. That's why you begin to see Philip and how he's going from town to town, and it's just like, yeah, he's going from town to town. He's being led, but also it's like they're fleeing. And I think, obviously, at the time, I'm sure anyone who was experiencing that would have been like, why is this happening to us? Not recognizing that this was about really being able to spread the gospel. The church had become a bit too comfortable, and God was like, let's get you guys to spread out. And so, I ask myself, in this dispensation, one of the things that I've been having discussions around with different people, is what does it look like for the church to be the church without the format that we are familiar with, right? And what if God has come to basically, overturn that format that we are so familiar with, same way that it happened in Jerusalem. This is the format that we're familiar with. And it's just like, poof, and guys have to flee. And what has happened right now is that a lot of the churches have had to go online. But what if that was what was God's intention? That the church needs to go online. We talk about the Great Commission, go into all the world. Right now, where is the world? You get what I'm saying? Like when you talk about now it's time to evangelize to the West, right? 87% of the guys in the West are connected to the internet. Do you get what I'm saying? And so what we were comfortable doing is building all these great buildings, right? And bring people into the buildings. And God is just like, what happened to go into all the world? Where is the world? The world is on the internet, right? Even as I was talking to my mom, and it was one of those things for like, okay, but what about the guys who are the poor? It's like, they have TV. Right now, if you go anywhere, the guys have whatever, television and radio, right? And I feel like, what if God is calling us to be able to move and to think about church going into the airwaves? You get what I'm saying? About not just church, the gospel. The purpose of the church was for the gospel. The gospel going into the airwaves. You get what I'm saying? So I think, I just feel, and this is all like, I'm not here to say, thus saith the Lord that I am taking you. This is literally just my own thoughts and what I feel is what God is saying to us is that, we are now, in a sense, for most churches, have now gotten to a place where we are being reactive because we're like, man, this format has need, let's react. As opposed to being in that place where we're looking at this and being like, what is God doing? And what if this has come so that we as a church need to now begin to think about how we go into all the world? How do we go online? Not so that we can reach our community. And that's what's happening. Because what's happening right now is that I think a lot of churches are scrambling on how to be able to reach their community, right? The people that, the 400-500 people that come to my church, or the 1,000 that come to our church, or the 5,000 that come to our church, right? We need to find a way to reach them, right? We need to find a way to be able to engage our congregation, right? Our congregation. Without recognizing that, because now all of a sudden we're not congregating, that your concern is no longer about just the 5,000, it's about we can reach 20,000 by going online. We can reach 50,000. I mean, even for example, like a video like this, I have no idea how far this thing could go. I have a friend who was watching who sent me a comment from the UK, who's like, thank you so much for that word that you shared. It's like, wow, all the way in the United Kingdom is someone who is being able to be impacted by something that is being shared in Nairobi, right? The internet is God's idea. And so God is here, and I look at this and I read this and I'm like, when did we forget about this? When did we forget about the Great Commission? When did we forget about Mark 16, where God says, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's like, when did we forget about this? When did we, and I think if it would be very unfortunate. It would be very unfortunate for us to come out of this crisis, only to go back to, now we're back in our buildings. We're back in our spaces. We're back to speaking to our 400 people or our 500 or our 1,000 people, and we want to grow marginally. We want to grow, we want to be able to see, we thank God, our congregation has grown from 300 to 500. Do you get what I'm saying? We've gained 200 more people who have received the gospel. It's like, bruh, you right now, we have the opportunity to grow from 500 to 5,000. People who can hear the gospel of Jesus Christ preached to them. And the reason why this is possible is because they can listen to it online. And so, I don't know, I just feel like, that's back to that thing, God is doing a new thing, whatever. And I just I don't know, I guess this is a conversation starter. This is how I feel. I don't know if there's many others who feel the same way. I know when I was talking to my mom, she felt exactly how I was feeling in terms of, I do believe that these things that come to, when you see something like this that has come and everyone is there praying against, the devil is doing his thing. I'm like, is he? Like, yeah, I'm sure he's doing his thing, but what if God is doing something? What if God is challenging the church to think about their format? What if he's challenging us to think about how we can deliver ministry online because it can reach more people? What if he's calling us to be able to think about how we can, deliver our marriage ministries and our ministry, considering the fact that there are so many guys now who are at home with their spouses, right? And called up with their spouses, where now it's like, you need to deal with your issues with your spouse. What if there's a call for us to be able to figure out how we can deliver marriage ministry online so that people can tune in and we can heal marriages as people are at home? There are cases of domestic abuse have gone up so high. What if there's an opportunity now for your men's ministry to be able to begin to figure out how do we deliver our men's ministry online and reach the men who are at home and tell them about and talk to them about being men of honor and being men who are protecting their families and not abusing them. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is not a time. This is a time for you to be a man. What if you think about things like that? Think about how we deliver men's ministry, how we deliver, marriage ministry, how we deliver new believer ministry, right? What is it that we're going to do for new believers, for the people who are watching all these streams that we are giving and would want to be able to walk in discipleship? What does that look like in terms of being able to deliver discipleship through online, because now we are reaching more people? I think that there's a mandate right now going to all the world, and maybe it's time for us as the church more than ever to be more unified than we've ever been before, in the recognition that I think God is doing something that, I would not be surprised if he came and he told me, Thimba, I'm doing this for the church. I'm doing this because I need the church to do its thing. I need the church to go into all the world. I no longer want the format that of captivity where we wait for people to come. I want the church to go out. I want the church to go out and to go into the online space, because through that the church will be able to reach more people and go into all the world. And what if that's what God is doing? And I feel that's so, like, this thing burns in my heart. Even as I'm talking right now, I'm just like, man, like, this is not a thing for us to react. This is not we are reacting to this so that we can reach our congregation. I genuinely just feel in my heart that God is asking us to step up. He's asking us to not just to move away from Jerusalem and to go into all the world and to begin to start thinking about, okay, as a church, how do we reach? Even right now, if you talk about, like, we want to reach out to, unbelievers, or people who, the amount of believers that I know who are in the closet, right? In the sense that they have faith, but they don't do corporate worship. They don't go to church. Do you get what I'm saying? What is the opportunity there to be able to revive a whole kind of, church community, but of people who have been wounded by the physical manifestation of the church, the building, and that place, and are able to engage online, and be able to, consume all this beautiful material that will allow them to grow in their faith. So I think there's an amazing opportunity for the church to reinvent itself. And I think what God has done is that He's given us this opportunity to be able to do that. And this is obviously not, this is just me saying this. Please understand, this is not thus saith the Lord. This is not a thus saith the Lord thing. But I think that if enough of us get it, I'm gonna just put this out there. I feel like if enough of us get it, and enough of us understand what time it is, and we are delivering, we think through how we can deliver content for God's people to grow in their faith and to be able to expand the reach that we're able to achieve of people who can come to the knowledge of God's saving grace. I think the sooner we'll get out of this crisis. That's just my hunch. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like once you get it, it's just like, okay, now they have understood. Okay, give them a vaccine. Here's okay. Now my people have understood. Yeah, my people have now understood. So now we're good. Back to But listen. This is just me saying this. But yeah, man.